Hello and welcome to the Durham Talents channel. My name is Jesse Durham. For today's interview, we have the double pleasure of speaking with both someone who personally implements the infinite banking concept and is a professional in this space, a colleague, a friend of mine, Shawn King. We had a great conversation and I hope that you enjoy. All right, Shawn, what's up, man?
Nice to be here, man. Looking forward to our conversation. Always like talking with big brain people like yourself that know a lot about infinite banking and know a lot about life. So happy.
Right? It's neat, and I want to do justice by you right here because it's normal for us to be on virtual calls, and of course we've met each other in person a few times as well. You do hail from Florida, so there's some distance there, but we've met in person a few times. So I need to make sure to do you some justice right here. So you have personally implemented the infinite banking concept. You're a professional in the space. You're an authorized infinite banking concept practitioner. You're a recent author in the space and in general. So I'll let you talk more about the book and everything. But if you would just pick whatever starting point you want, man, and paint the picture of who Shawn is, and then of course we're going to get to your infinite banking journey.
For sure, man. Well, we'll start a little bit again, thank you for having me. Happy to be on here and share with people and hopefully bring some clarity to some people around this because I think we're both just very normal people. And I think this concept and the product of whole life insurance is great for normal, everyday people like us. So I hope the things I say are relatable to you guys, and that's a lot what my book is about, which we'll touch on later. It's just a normal person here. So much like Jesse, I don't think I ever assumed I would be in the life insurance business. I didn't personally like sales that much anyways. I grew up the most of my life out on the West Coast, mostly in Arizona. Was big into sports growing up. Played basketball all throughout high school. Ended up getting a full ride scholarship to go play Division I basketball in Chicago. So going from Arizona to Chicago, had a crazy first winter there. Absolutely insane. Never seen anything like that. Glad I didn't stay there for very long. But basketball was the life. So I think it taught me a lot of things, discipline, structure, teamwork, leadership, all of these things that I felt were going, and my family felt were going to be really necessary for me later in life, developing into a good man, good husband, good father, all of these, things that we try and strive to be, good brother, good son, all of those things.
Mhm.
So, uh, growing up, did quite a bit of traveling with the family in the country, some little things out of the country. I consider Hawaii to be out of the country. It's essentially a different country. The Bahamas, Mexico, stuff like that. So got bit by the travel bug pretty early on. Did some pretty cool trips with my family, and those are a lot of the highlights that I remember in my life more so than maybe some of the other things that were purchased. So growing up, I really started to focus around like, hey, traveling is awesome. You get to go to these amazing places, do these amazing things, see these different cultures, these people, eat this food, all of this stuff. My grandmother was a huge traveler. She did, before she passed, I think she had done well over 100 countries all around the world. So very big traveler. So I think that's where I got my heart to travel from and my passion for it. So coming out of college, I got my degree in business management and communications. The degree is back there somewhere. I don't really care that much, but I got it. But coming out of college, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, so I just got random jobs that allowed me to be flexible with my time, travel, go different places, do different things. And that led me into a travel company that Jesse and I were both in, which we didn't happen to meet each other in that company. This was back in 2015 when I got into it. That allowed me to do quite a bit of traveling around some incredible places that I'd never imagined I would go for a really affordable price. So that was my big thing, traveling, seeing the world, doing all this different stuff, having flexible jobs like bartending, like serving, like delivery jobs, FedEx, Amazon, construction stuff, stuff that I could leave and come back to without, much of a problem. Or if they let me go, I could go somewhere else and get another serving job. But my focus was living the life, traveling the world and having fun. Ended up meeting my wife in met her first time in 2017, met her again in 2018 on a trip that I actually put together through our old travel club. And things went great from there. We end up moving in together. Fast forward, we're in a position where we're deciding that we want to start. This is before COVID, just right before COVID, that we want to start trying to have, kids, build a family, which ended up taking us a little while. But my thought process was, being the type of person I am, I want to make sure that I get a work from home job so I can be around her as much as possible. I want to make sure that when, through the pregnancy and then once the baby's here, I can be present as much as I possibly can. And so I started looking online for different gigs that would allow me to have that flexibility and work from home. And there were two different jobs that you could essentially get. You could do computer related things, tech related stuff, which was over my head, or you could sell life insurance. That seemed to be what was popping up everywhere. And again, I was not a salesperson, hadn't really ever done sales in my life before, but what I could get behind was family. That was something that I was extremely passionate about. So although I didn't want to sell people things, I knew if I had to sell them something, I could sell them in the belief that protecting their family should be their number one priority. I didn't have kids yet, but I didn't even have life insurance at that point. But I had a person in my life that I really cared about, not yet my spouse, but soon to be. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to dive into the whole life insurance path. I got in with a company, a big IMO. I learned a ton of stuff. It was the generic term, final expense, that type of stuff. So I learned a lot of the ground floor stuff about life insurance. And then as I started learning more, I learned about index universal life policies. And that was kind of the first thing that I latched onto. Didn't learn anything about whole life yet, but learned about IUL. And then realized, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know life insurance could do this. I didn't know you could have cash built in a policy. I didn't know there was flexibility to be able to potentially loan it out or create retirement income later in life. So that really led me down a hole of digging more into what that product was. I sold that product for a while, ended up realizing after many nights of laying my head on my pillow, wondering if I'm doing the right thing for my clients as I'm going through and learning the process. I got my hands on this book right here, Becoming Your Own Banker. I think I read another one first, a really short one. I forget what it's called. I've got it back here, but I ended up getting my hands on this book. Not something that was being passed around the company that I worked at, but coming across the whole life stuff and doing my studying, I ended up coming across that and I read it and something kind of clicked and I realized, oh, this is what I've been looking for. This was the thing that I thought the IUL stuff was. This was the guarantees. This was the security. This was that that asset that I knew was generational. And so I started asking the people at my company about it. They knew only so much about infinite banking. They knew a little bit more about whole life, but it was more specifically for using it in a way to pay off debt, which I learned everything they could teach me about that, and then realized I'm at a ceiling here. I have to go find someplace else to actually learn more about this because this concept, if all this stuff that he's saying in the book is true, it's incredible. Like, I've got to go learn more about this. So I end up searching around and find Jonah and Jeremiah out there, and I just really connected with the way that they communicated with people, how young they were, the information that they were putting out there, all of that stuff. And so partnered up with them, what's been about a year and a half ago now, and just started learning, diving into even more everything I could about this concept. So I've been practicing it myself now for coming in on 3.5, 4 years, something right around there. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to double check, but been learning about the actual concept for quite some time and been helping folks with it for quite some time because I did help some folks with it before I actually had one because I didn't exactly know what was going on. So yeah, that's kind of how we ended up here. It's been a labor of love with learning about this stuff and teaching it to people, and I think people really get substantially more excited when dealing with life insurance when it's something like this where we can structure it and use it and it becomes a system it's not just a death benefit that you're putting on and kind of, yes, you guys will get this money when I'm gone. It's like, hey, no, 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 we're gonna use it now, and we're gonna make sure that it benefits not only your family but you in this present moment. So, yeah,
All right, man. I got questions then. All right. So the first one that I wrote down about a third of a page of questions here. How many states have you been to? Is that a number you could recall?
oh gosh,
To
almost,
put us close.
yeah, almost all of them. Let's see, this if there's 50 states, I've probably been to at least 35 to 40 of them.
I figured so. I'm down to four. I gotta go to four more. Not Alaska. I've been to Alaska, but Hawaii being one of them. So,
I have not been to
um,
Alaska. That is on the list. I hear good things about it.
well, again, thanks to the travel club and thanks to the infinite banking concept, because it was an amazing travel club. But there were expenditures that we would cover on our family trips at that time with what we'd learned from infinite banking. So we were using, if we needed a flight somewhere, even if the trip were already, let's say, taken care of because of the travel club, but we needed to fly over to, the state of Washington to get on the cruise ship to go up, the Canadian and Alaskan coastline and whatnot. Then we would get all four of because we would only had our two boys by then, we would have got all four of our tickets, using a policy loan or something. So just stories like that. All right. So I had to ask that, but countries, can you get as close to how many countries you've been to so far?
Yeah, about 40.
Unreal, man. I'm nowhere close. I mean, I've been to several, but and it's double digits, I reckon, but nowhere near 40. That's incredible.
I think
Um,
our son is two. He turned two in January. We just got back from a trip to Japan and China. And I think that was either his 10th and his 11th or his 11th and his 12th countries that he's been to. So we're starting him early, filling up that passport. And again, you got to get a lot of those countries in while before two because you don't pay for tickets. That boy turned two and now you got to pay for him like he's a full adult. And you're like, gosh, that strains the budget just a little bit more.
right, right. You'd happily hold them in your lap and just,
Yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. So, all right. Well, I had to ask that while I was thinking about it. So college, basketball, some type of a business degree was what you went to college for.
Yep, that is what I got my degree in, business management.
So what was I mean, how did you land on that? Was it something you just picked from a sheet because basketball was the only, excitement, or no, did you actually put some thought into it and there was some underlying interest there in some form of business?
No, so I had a clothing line, kind of a tattoo apparel clothing line, basically throughout college that I ran. And yeah, the business side of stuff. Like I always thought, like I think any athlete thinks, hey, if I don't end up doing well in my sport and going to the next level, I want to fall back into something business related, whether I'm an agent or, something along those lines. I had tossed around being what do you call it, at a school, like not a superintendent, but their athletic director, stuff like that. So I had a business, so I wanted to learn more about business. And then going through college, I learned, man, they really don't teach you that much about business. Like I'm learning more having a business than actually, being in these classes, being taught by these people that are teaching me out of a textbook about business definitions or whatever it is that they were teaching me. So I thought that was really interesting. To be honest, I probably wouldn't have finished my degree if the majority of it wasn't paid for. I didn't play basketball my entire career. It took me 5 years to graduate because I played basketball, and they really limit your amount of hours that you could take. At least we did because our schedules were so busy. So it ended up taking me 5 years to graduate, and I came back to Arizona, where I went to high school at, to finish up my last 2 years of college because I got in-state tuition, and I actually had to pay for that portion myself because I was obviously no longer on a scholarship, not playing basketball anymore. So I was really thinking about, I don't think I need this degree. I was always that type of person that's like, feel like at this point in time, school is becoming less and less valuable. A degree is becoming less and less valuable. I think that even more so today, although I have used my degree for things, not specifically in the realm of business, but certain jobs that I've gotten over time, certain things that I've done have required me to have any degree. So I was kind of happy that I had one. And I could see it paying some sort of dividends now, but I think the real value is getting in there and actually learning and doing the things yourself, plugging in with the mentors and the people that are actually doing the stuff that you want to be doing. And I feel like I probably would have got more value throughout high school or throughout college if I just did that, found other business owners, plugged into masterminds, did that type of stuff, and learned from the people that were actually doing it.
Yeah, the dichotomy of the college experience is really interesting. Maybe more so for people in our general age, to where for me it was very much assumed that if you weren't in the military and if you weren't just going to the workforce right out of high school, you had to go to college.
Hmm.
And while I'm agreeing so much with what you're saying, like these business professors, be nice to poll them and ask how many of them have actually owned and operated a business before we start. I mean, I'm not saying they can't teach us theory out of the books,
Yeah.
right? And that still be a type of experience, but is it the kind of experience that we want and can, tactically benefit from in comparison to, like you're saying, to actually running a business ourselves? You having a clothing line. So but there's no question that it's an experience. It gives you perspective to go to college in general, right? And be around
Yeah.
new people or ideas and
I had a
whatnot.
great time. I think it is a great experience. Might be too expensive of an experience for the cost for most people these days, but I wouldn't tell people, like if my son was like, "Hey, I want to go to college," more so for the experience, I'd be like, "All right, well, let's either do it out of the country or let's get some scholarship money from, being intelligent, some sort of grant where you can cut down on those prices. Maybe you could use your policies, cash value if you really wanted to do that. But going to college is incredible. The athletic stuff that's there, being involved in the sporting events, having something that you could really be proud of, becoming an alumni, that type of stuff. I think there's a lot of value in that type of stuff, the communities, the friendships that you can build. But the price is insane. I mean, it's literally insane. They're essentially bankrupting young adults before they even get the chance to make any real money in their lives. So it's it's a difficult position to be in, but I think everybody's going to have to make their own choice. But I think people are starting to realize, like, oh, I think I could do more. YouTube University, I think I could do more without it these days than potentially with it.
Well, obviously, we think there's a lot of value in what people can get out of YouTube, right? If they're on the right channels, right?
Yep,
But
100%.
outside of credit card debt, student loans are the next largest debt, and we work with these folks.
Yep.
We work with these folks that are coming to us with their financial issues and goals and plans, and we're coming up with custom plans. And a big part of that could be, hey, how are we going to address this partner that we have with the government, and that's why it's so expensive. But okay, it's neat for me to hear some of your reflections being on this side of college. And I think it'll be neat when you and I are having this conversation as our children do get closer to that age,
Mhm. Yours well
Um,
before mine.
you're right. So you met Amanda 2017. Y'all started getting serious 2018, but you got started in the travel business same year that I did, 2015. Okay, so I'm tracking with you there. Did did your prior and here's what well, let me say this while I'm thinking about it, because a few things you've said, Sean, I think I feel a connecting thread, but I obviously don't know what you would say about it. So it's interesting to me that you studied business in college, had a business in college, were in a travel business, and maybe I think I know what you would say there just because of what you prefaced about life insurance a moment ago. But then of course, you're in the insurance world now. So there's a lot of business, but more than once you've also already said you didn't want to be selling.
Yeah.
So that combination is really interesting, right? Because a travel business had sales in it.
Yeah.
The insurance business, us helping people, becoming your own banker, sure, implementing this concept from this book still means that they're going to tactically procure for themselves, buy for themselves a policy to go out and take care of their financial needs, which means they're going to be getting that policy from an agent
Yep.
that represents a company, et cetera. So I don't know. I'm wanting you to address that now or later because on the one hand, I can understand and appreciate that you're saying, well, I am who I am and I don't really want to be selling stuff. But maybe if it's travel, you're like, I love travel. Do you like travel? Okay. Do you want to go at this price or that price? Right? Like that, it's an inherent obviousness. Except sales is still there, is what I'm saying. So, how do you reflect on all this that I'm trying to describe, being where you are now, having gone through all of those experiences, and still being in the field that you are now?
Yeah, so my view on sales, one, if I have to sell something, like if I have to convince someone that they need or want this, I feel like then I'm selling them. With travel, I was going places before I was in the club, going places after I was in the club. And if you ask most people if they could go other places in the world than where they're currently at, they would say yes. So
Hmm.
with that, it wasn't, oh, I had to sell you on the idea of wanting to go other places. Your question was, how do I afford to go these other places? And so again, with that club, it was just like, I could show you how to go these places for less. Like I'm essentially a broke college student and I'm going all these places. If you want to go places too, would you rather pay more or less? So again, there was no sale and I could stand behind it confidently because again, I was so passionate about traveling already. There was there was no hard close where it's like, oh, you want to go to Mexico, but you want to pay $1,000 instead of $200. Okay, like you go, you pay your 1,000, I'll pay my 200, and I'll see you there, like with $800 more in my pocket. So that didn't feel like a sale to me. Um, and then with the insurance stuff, again, I think it's all just focused around education. Like anybody you ask, well, God, not anybody, because I've talked to people in my life that are like, I don't care if I leave anything behind. We're not the same. You and me, we're not the same. But for those people that actually do care about their family, their legacy, their spouses, whoever it may be in some form or another, I don't have to convince them that leaving something or building something for their children, for their grandchildren, for their spouses is something that they want to do. It is what they want to do. They just don't know how to get from point A to point B in the most efficient and affordable way possible. And then when you bring in the banking side of things, people are much more open to doing things, no matter how bad this sounds. Of course, they want to take care of their families, but they're much more interested when they're also involved in the scenario, when it also benefits them during their lifetime. So I already know that people don't like the government. I already know that people don't like paying taxes. You already know all of these things about people in general. And so when it came down to it, it was just educating them like, hey, this is just another way that people are doing things that are going to check off a lot of the boxes that you would like to be checked off in your life. And again, this is going to benefit you. So my job is not, it's more of a teacher and not as a salesman. Sure, I'm the guy that you buy the stuff from, but I'm also the guy that's teaching, coaching, training you on this so you understand it. You could, by all means, go and buy it from somebody else. But once you understand it, not only have we built some sort of relationship, but you are going to trust me, you're going to know me, and I'm assuming you're going to like me. And it does not become a I'm buying this from you. It becomes I'm now partnering with you to help me get from point A to point B in my life. So it just never feels like sales because I'm not having to convince you or show you the shiny stuff to make you end up wanting to buy it at the end of the day. And if I am, I'm not doing my job very well.
Cool. I think it's so very worthwhile to verbalize all that, and I knew I wanted to hear it from you. Very interesting. I can appreciate it. Let's then talk about, okay, you've got this prior business experience, but then you have a transition into, and because of you're changing landscape, looking towards marriage, looking towards family, looking towards the future. And you said you saw, IT or whatever as an option. There's computer stuff that can be done from home.
Mhm.
And then there's life insurance. Everybody, has a family member, has a friend, someone from church, someone from their clubs. Like we all know a dozen people, with these licenses, just like you could say about, real estate would be another big one. It's like who hadn't had, that many friends and family that also have had, or maybe even still do have a real estate license. It's common. What about was it the spoiling? In a sense, I would say it was the spoiling, maybe of travel, being in the business of travel is pretty fun. That also was part of the attraction that made you lean towards life insurance instead of something computer oriented, or just fill that out more for me. I'm always curious, even when somebody comes to insurance from a generic perspective, kind of like you described earlier, of if it's final expense, if it's, helping people get term insurance or whatever, it's an interesting direction, right? Because we know that most people don't stick with it also,
No, almost
right?
nobody.
Beyond their first year.
Yeah.
So, and they shouldn't. I'm not saying that they should, right? Like I'm not trying to shame anybody for saying, oh, you're a quitter. No, no, no. It's like we should all be doing different things because we're all different kind of people,
Mhm.
right? But what do you think about that?
Man, I think with the insurance stuff, it was just one, the I think mostly it was the ease of the barrier of entry. Like they say all the time, there's not many things easier than getting your life insurance license. Now, this will let you know how regular I am. I thought it was fairly difficult. Like, I found it challenging. I'm not great at studying stuff, and I absolutely hate tests. When I graduated from college, I was like, thank you, that is done. I am never going back. My sister went to multiple years of extra college and got multiple more degrees, and I'm like, that's not for me. So, that type of studying and test taking stressed me out. But the ease of like getting in and getting your license and the flexibility that provided to again work from home and kind of I had that experience of not really working for myself because when I had my job that my business that I owned, I wasn't making enough income for that to be like legitimate full-time income, not anywhere close. But this provided me with the flexibility again to prioritize certain things in my life. I knew if I went the tech route, there was a long process to get in to even then potentially try and get a job. Like the jobs that were available required some sort of, history of being in it. You know, I had to have certain things on uh, my resume and whatnot. So although they were available, the barrier of entry of getting in would have taken me much longer to have to go through and do these courses and do these other things. And it was too much. And that stuff didn't sound super appealing to me because I don't I mean, I use technology, I use my computer, all that stuff, but coding, no, that's not for me. So again, it just happened to be right place, right time, and oh, this is a fairly easy thing to get into. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Not only is it easy to get into, but like I mentioned, I believed that I could quote unquote sell it easier than I could potentially do other things out there because of the passion that I had for the family unit and, how important I thought that was. I felt like I was intelligent enough to relay that information, that value, that importance to other people and help them see it, that it would come more natural to me and the sales side wouldn't be very hard. So yeah, it's just by happen chance that I ended up in this business. If there were other things that might have checked other boxes in my life at that time, I probably would have went that route. But I ended up here, and like you said, most people you could throw a rock into a crowd and hit 30 people with their insurance license if there was 20 people in the crowd. So like basically everybody has it. We always warn people about your broke uncle who sells life insurance. Like he'll sell you the wrong policy. He'll tell you the things that, especially about infinite banking, that are most likely inaccurate. So we want to be careful who we listen to. but luckily for me, low enough bar of entry that I could get in and I could learn about it and it could bring me all the way to here. And it took me along this long path, but I ended up really dialing into the thing that I found most important and valuable and exciting that I could be passionate about and get behind and think to myself, oh, I could do this for literally the rest of my life, which is luckily what I'm doing now.
Awesome. But in the beginning too, though, it was final expense stuff, term insurance, maybe mortgage protection. You said a few things.
Mhm.
So I guess I'd like to know, what did you get exposed to from your beginning that you still reflect on? You're like, man, that was great. That's still helpful to me. That was a good learning lesson, and then tell me more about you know, I don't know, use your own words to describe how you got to, like, how did you actually get to the becoming your own banker book? Like, how did you, so tell me, take me through that.
So I got into this and again got in with an IMO, and their whole thing was like, we're not essentially cold calling, but we're calling what I would consider cold to semi-cold leads. And boy, I I hated it. I did not like it because that felt salesy to me. And but again, it taught me a lot of resilience because there was times that I was like telling my wife, telling our dog at the time, I gotta quit. I can't do this. I know it provides with the flexibility. Sometimes when you get the income, like it's nice, but it is exhausting. I'm not the type of person that's just going to kick up a conversation with anybody. So denial hurts my feelings big time. Anybody that tells you it doesn't hurt their feelings, good for them. They might be lying to you. It hurts my feelings a lot. So it was tough to like get through that. But again, what I really saw was the people that I was helping. It really made me feel good. And then I kept learning about these things that I knew were just going to benefit my family more and more. So I'm like, I don't want to like get away from this because even if this stuff doesn't work out as a job, as a career, I'm learning so much that I'm going to be able to set my family up in a really good position financially, when I'm here, when I'm gone, all of that stuff. So the IUL thing, again, I come back to that. Like that was what the first thing that I was introduced to. And I just thought it was so incredible. I didn't understand, like, oh, there's this thing out there that not only can I protect my family later in life, but I can get coverage and use it and build this retirement. Because again, I had worked at jobs that didn't have 401ks, didn't have these type of retirement things. So I was coming into this with no retirement. I was, you know, 28, 29 years old, whatever it was, and didn't really know where I was going to go with my life because I had focused so much on traveling and doing other things prior to that. So the IUL thing got me excited. It was something that the company was excited about, and I just learned literally everything I could about that. I became obsessed with that and learning about it. And then again, the deeper that I dove into that and the more that I started to realize and understand the product, this was over an extended period of time, years. But as I started to understand it more and more and started to see the kind of battles that were going on between whole life people and IUL people, I started thinking like, well, I'm hearing their stuff and this just sounds like a better thing that, can make you more money in the long run. And so I didn't really understand what the whole life people's whole thing was with, the guarantees and all of that. So as I started looking more into it, started listening to the other side of the coin, the other side of the argument a little bit more. And so many things were similar to what the IUL was. So I started reaching out to people that were in that realm and doing those type of deals, the whole life insurance and the infinite banking style stuff. And again, I learned what I could at my company and realized, man, these things that they were kind of teaching us about the IUL and that the IUL companies are teaching us, like they're leaving out things that I think are really important that could be detrimental to the clients if they don't understand and if this thing is not like really well funded and really well managed. And so again, I can remember nights where I'm laying my head on my pillow, just like, am I doing the wrong thing for my clients? And that was what worried me the most. Like, I do not want somebody to come back 10, 15, 20 years later and be like, Shawn, you screwed me on this. I thought you said this was going to work. And so that was giving me just anxiety and nightmares. So when I better understood whole life, excuse me, and realized all the value behind it and the flexibility and the guarantees, again, that obsession that I had with IULs took over with whole life, and I just started trying to consume as much content around it as possible. Again, with I can't remember what the original book is called. It's like 25 pages. It's something in life insurance. Like it's super simple, but they kind of started talking about whole life. I'm like, this is so amazing. Like this is definitely it. This is what I thought the other thing was, and I can get behind this. I can feel confident that when I share this with people that I'm putting them in a better position no matter what happens. Obviously, they're the variable. So as long as they don't mess it up, like by being a bad banker, a bad policyholder, then this is going to work. And then, the came across the book and started reading this. And I got to tell you guys, if you read this the first time or the second time or the third time and a lot of the stuff went over your head, you're not alone. I didn't really get it. I didn't know that much about money. I didn't know that much about leverage. There was a lot of things I didn't know about that he was talking about in the book. But there were enough things where I'm like, man, if this is real, this is it. Like I got my hands on something and this is something I can get behind. So it just went from there. Like it's not like it switched overnight, but once it clicked in my head that whole life was always the the thing that I was looking for. Again, I'm not here to say that IULs are bad. Every tool has its job, but I realize for the normal person like myself, the regular everyday person that doesn't have $20,000 a month that they can be funneling into something, can't be, completely max funding something like an IUL that it needs to have to even have the potential to work, that this was for the normal, regular, everyday person. And the fact that you could take a lot of the control back in your life and move yourself from, remove yourself for the most part from institutions and from the government's constant watchful eye. There were just so many things, so many bells that were going off that like, this is it. And so again, dove headfirst into it and was just like, this is taking over my life now. And got my first policy. I had student loans. We had some credit card debt. Luckily, we had some cash because we were good savers, and we had sold a piece of land as well. So we had some additional cash, and we were able to start a nice size policy and funnel a decent chunk of cash through it. And within the first year, we ended up paying off the $60,000 that we had in debt. And if you have a policy and you haven't taken a loan, or if you're thinking about getting a policy, or you have a policy and you have taken loans, most people can understand that first time when you pay that first amount, whatever it is, you're paying monthly, you're paying annually, you pay it, they take your money, you're like, holy crap, I hope I can get this money back like they said I could. And then you take the loan and you're like, oh, look at that. Showed up in my bank account. This is all right. Like this works. So again, a switch just kind of went off there where I'm like, not only do I believe this works 100%, but now I know this works, and I paid off the money to the creditors and Sally Mae, and policy kept growing. Like I still essentially had it in there because I didn't use my money. I leveraged other people's money, things that I had been learning about. And boy, it was just like fireworks going off. You're like, everybody's got to know about this. I don't care if you're average Joe or you're, Joe Millionaire. Like everybody's got to know about this thing.
So you were loving the things that IUL is purported to do, whether, all the above that you've mentioned, supplement your retirement income, access to capital now. Anyway, let me not say too much there. So then my questions, let me go back to the book for a minute. My question is then, what did you love from the book right away, Shawn? What did you have to work through that you didn't grasp or understand right away?
Yeah, so what I loved about the book was it's the way that he tells the way that he wrote it is not like a normal book, which I really enjoyed. It's again kind of like a workbook almost. There was stories that I find to be way easier to relate to things. So whether it be the grocery store example, I will tell you the car financing example. It made sense, but it also didn't make sense because, again, I had never really seen anything like that before. So that went over my head. But it just felt honest and sincere. Like, I never talked to Nelson, never met him. At that point, I can't even recall if I had heard his voice before. But reading it, we talked about the sales thing before. Like, and he says right at the beginning, this is not a sales tool, which is nice. But, when you see that stuff, you're always cautious because you're like, is it a sales tool? But at the end of the day, it just felt so real and genuine and just educational. Here's the information, man. Like, I think you've been getting taken advantage of because you don't have the proper education. That's not your fault. I'm going to provide it for you. Once you have that, decisions are up to you. So again, I don't know. It just there were things about it that seemed so real and honest that I'm like this. And again, the guy is like he passed when he was what 80. Gosh, can't remember how old he was when he passed. Mid to late 80s. But
Mhm.
you see him on the back of the book and you're like, man, this just looks like a nice old white guy. Like, man, this guy seems wholesome and from Alabama. And his family story or his story about his scenario and family, just none of it felt like he was trying to convince me like you should do infinite banking. It was like you should understand that this is out there and it's been there for a long time. And luckily, I was able to conceptualize it and write it down so that I could teach you about it. But I don't know, man. It just felt so real to me that after already kind of knowing a little bit about whole life and not really infinite banking, but what it could do, reading that and learning about that just kind of put a couple pieces together. And again, it just made it clear that what I thought Iowa was is what this is. And if I was as excited as I was about that, I'm without a doubt going to be excited about this. And what made it the most exciting was I could see my family implementing this and this selfishly changing our lives for generations to come. And then it was like, oh man, if this could change our lives, obviously I have to tell other people about it so it can help them change their lives. But I just saw so much of my future family in the stories that he was saying. And I own my own business, can't steal the peas. I used to give merchandise away all the time. Like just so many things I'm like looking back and I'm like, man, so many lessons in this that again are just relatable and just stories that I could implement in my life. And it really pissed me off that nobody was had taught me this. I went through this entire business school and didn't mention a single thing about it. So there were highs when reading it and there were lows where I was just frustrated with how I'd gotten through, let's call it 30 years of my life. I don't know exactly how old was that I was when I read it, but that nobody had mentioned anything like this up until really, this point in my life. Um, so a lot of emotions because there's just so many things going through your head like what if, what could have been, thank God I found this, how do I implement this? How do I tell people about it? Just a million things. But at the end of the day, it was just joy that I had the opportunity at the age that I read about it to then take action and start doing something about it. And I was young enough where I felt like this is still going to be extremely impactful. Not that it wouldn't have been if I was 50 or 60, but I could make a generational change right now that was going to not only affect my life for a long time, but also, change everything from me forward.
Yeah, I could appreciate that spectrum of feelings, moments of despair. Is like, why didn't my grandparents implement this concept all the way to anger or frustration, all the way to joy and gratefulness? Is like, hey, but I do get to. I'm not, the person that I'm on the phone with who's 60 something years old or 70 something years old. And listen, I don't care how old you are. Everybody's doing banking. Okay.
Yep.
You could own it. You could control it. You could profit. Somebody's got to lead the way. So if you are that 60, 70-year old, then be about the business of it. Right. But
Yep.
we all find it when we find it. So there's that. I could also appreciate what you were describing, Shawn, when it comes to Nelson's sincerity, his obvious, acumen. He's obviously well read. He's obviously well studied. He's had this super lengthy career, a great career, in insurance as an industry, and then he's sharing these revelations from his own life and everything. And it's very much coming from a grandfather figure because he was a grandfather as he's writing the book in 2001.
Yep.
That is part of who Nelson is at the time, right? And I always like encouraging people because you said something about you didn't maybe even hear his voice yet, and because people can still listen to Nelson's recorded seminar, people can see other things from him online. I always would like to encourage people that haven't seen his documentary
Oh,
to go see the This Is Nelson documentary. You can find it on YouTube. I think that's a great way for people to be introduced to who the person was.
yeah, 100%. And I always tell, especially people who are couples, I'm like, hey, just like they suggest, this is a popcorn and chill type of thing. Like, sit down because you usually get one believer and one skeptic in almost
Mm-hmm.
all situations with
Mm-hmm.
these relationships. I have them now with people that I'm dealing with, and it's like, hey, just forget about the insurance, forget about the concept of banking. Sit down and learn more about the man, and you'll feel better. Your spouse should feel better about everything else that's going to happen from this point on because it seeps out of him just the sincerity and the realness and the belief in what this could do for people. And, unless God blessed him with the ability to completely just pull one over on people, everybody, the more that you learn about him, the more that you realize, oh, this was a generationally great person. People say
Mm-hmm.
so many amazing things about him. Uh, and I believe that the more you know him and the more you like and understand him as a person, the more you will like and understand this concept because of his unrelenting belief in it. And again, it's all about you. His whole thing was like, this is all about doing something great for you and your family and generations to come and putting the control back in your hands. And I believe that there's a lot of these forces outside that are doing things to keep us down, hold us back, all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And this is putting some of the power back in your hands and allowing you to retake control of not just the banking function in your life, but your emotions, your health, a lot of stuff. So it's drastically changed my life since I've been involved in it, and I cannot wait to see what happens to my kids, their kids, and hopefully I have the ability to imprint in them the importance of this style of living, this lifestyle that it
Mm-hmm.
becomes, that it's something that literally from Sean and the generational tree on, everything changes. Selfishly, that's what I want to happen.
No, I get fired up about that stuff. The thing is we don't, while we can appreciate all these great qualities about Nelson, it's not like we're relying on this one guy out here, and
No.
because he himself says, hey, we got to start with imagination because it is all about you and the way that you think, right?
Yep.
But we're going to couple that with reason. We're going to couple it with logic, right? And then he gave a fourth, which is prophecy. Which actually, anybody who's a student of history can see that. Well, prophecy could also just be characterized as history repeating itself. If you look back this way, maybe you've got some kind of inclination of what things could look like going this way. All right. So he's the one who's saying, listen, look at this logically, look at this reasonably, and you will come to your own conclusions. And then, of course, when you layer on top of that, what he's saying about the reason and the logic of the process of banking, and then you begin to look at the industry and the companies and the contracts, and you're like, oh, guaranteed private asset. Got it. From a company that's been profitable for well over 100 years. Got it. So we're not having to take anybody at their word. And folks that are vetting this concept, you and I are not asking them to take us at our word. Go and look into this for yourself. Do your own, get into the book for yourself, right? And et cetera. Okay, cool. I love it. I love giving honor where I believe honor is due to Nelson. But again, it just is what it is. He himself says that he discovered this concept. Doesn't mean that it didn't exist. Doesn't mean that he fabricated it, but rather he was the first person to see it for what it was and actually shared the blueprint. And now we get to enjoy that pivotal change within our own individual family trees moving forward.
100%. And he'll be the first one, if he was still around, he'd be the first one to tell you, like, hey, this has been here long. I just happen to be blessed with the ability to take it, again, conceptualize it, and put it onto paper so that other people, far less intelligent than me, not me personally, but people like me, could actually read it and understand it and implement it and, utilize it in our lives. And that's what I'm extremely grateful for, because we know that people, very successful people throughout, the past 100+ years have been doing this in their lives. Not to the extent of how we're able to do it now, because some things in the industry have changed, but the product itself of whole life insurance has been a staple in America's history for quite some time. And if people understood how time tested the product itself is, then I think a lot more people would feel confident and comfortable when utilizing it, storing it, owning it for the, I think, without a doubt, the best asset, the strongest asset that there is out there. So, uh, yeah, man, he's not the only one, but boy, did he open a can of worms to give a lot of people the opportunity to go catch a lot of fish.
Right. The life insurance has been here longer than the stock market has been, and we know what the conventional wisdom tells us to do there, right? Well, let me ask you a tactical question, Shawn. When you're exposed to this concept and you're seeing the virtues of whole life insurance, you decide to implement the infinite banking concept yourself. What was your thinking around premium and what might have been appropriate for you at the time? And maybe what have you learned? Because that's a pretty common question
Mhm.
for us, right? But I'm asking you to also wield your own personal experience because, we've bought policies. So that means at different courses in time, we've decided, how much so I'd love to get some of your thinking behind premiums.
Yeah, so I have this, uh, I don't want to call it unrealistic, but this belief in my life that I can will money towards me. So when I come to my premiums, my understanding was I want something that's going to make me sweat, because if it makes me feel uneasy and I know I'm putting it into something where it's going to be there, then I will work harder and I will do the things necessary to make sure I have the money to put into that system. So I didn't really take the first policy that I got for myself, I didn't really take premium that much into account. I'll tell you guys, I had a $30,000 policy, and it was basically $10,000 base premium and $20,000 paid up additions. And that was just because I had cash. We had more cash than that from, again, saving and doing other things, but we had that cash. And again, the thought process is no matter what, I'm going to make 10 grand and I'm going to flow towards this thing. Uh, and I know I'll make more than that. And, that'll be great. Could I have done less when that next 10 grand premium came up? Was it like slightly stressful? Yeah, but I knew all throughout that year that I was working and I'm like, I'm going to have this money. And luckily I was able to end up paying 30 grand the second time for the policy premium. But when people ask me you know, well, how much do I put in? The question isn't how much do you put in or how much do you have to put in. The question is always how much of your money do you want to keep? Like you're going to give away a certain percentage of your money. We don't know exactly, what that is for your individual situation, but I can guarantee you that every dollar that you funnel through this thing will continue working for you. So when we're figuring out a number, we want to be realistic. I know you want to keep every dollar that you make, but in all reality, let's break down where your money currently flows, where you have to spend on certain things that are non-negotiable on a monthly or annual basis. And let's kind of find those things that are a little bit more flexible and negotiable. I was going to say taxes. Taxes are not negotiable, but it's one of those things that you kind of know that's coming up depending on the type of gig that you work. You can dial in pretty close to what it might be. And let's start there. These more flexible things that may happen, may not happen, will certainly happen, but they're only happening once a year. Let's create a premium around that. And oftentimes find that people, because they don't fully understand this or fully believe it until they start implementing it, they start smaller, which is fine. You start where you're comfortable starting at, but I'm sure you have a lot of stories of people starting a policy, realizing its value, implementing it in some way, or just taking a loan and realizing, oh, they do send the money back to me and I get access to it, that are like, I probably should have started a bit larger. So I didn't want to be in that position. I wanted to have room to flow, more cash in the policy. So I don't think I'm the best person to ask where where somebody should personally start. Each individual situation is different, but that's kind of where I lean to is, hey, what expenses do we have that are somewhat flexible that we would rather send money into a system, have that money for later, and be able to pull it back out and utilize to pay these specific things. And let's start from there. Big, small, whatever it may be, you know, that we got to get a starting point. So I have other policies, multiple other policies. A lot of them tend to be right around that range that I did my first policy for. But it's because it entices me to go out and do more and create more and provide more value and different stuff because I know, man, the more I make, the more money I can flow into this thing and the better off my family will be and the more leverage and control I'll have and all of these different things. So I see it as a more thing.
I can appreciate that. So you said something that would make me sweat a little bit, and I can appreciate you wanting to lean into prioritizing cash flow towards premiums. I've heard James Nethery say that, if the potential premium that you can pay, meaning the contractual right that you have to pay, because you got flexibility actually with a good structured policy as the owner of the policy, but the number that you can pay as premium into the policy, he says, should make you raise your eyebrows, or maybe it would make that spouse raise their eyebrows. So I'm saying that to say what I've heard from him, but also to underscore something that you said earlier when it came to the Nelson documentary, that it can very often be the case, like you said, that there may be somebody who is just interested in the results of where this process is going to take them. They're not going to be the one who's reading the books and listening to our podcasts and those types of things, but they're interested in the results. But something like a documentary, can get them a feel for the concept and the man behind the concept, etc. But then when that couple goes to have a conversation around the premium, because typically one person does the number crunching and pays the bills or whatever in the household. Sometimes it's the guy, sometimes it's the gal. That's always funny how that turns out. But if somebody raises their eyebrows a little bit, you're probably getting to a sincere number, at least, right? Something that would actually move you towards your goals, something that would actually give you some bandwidth for some traction. Well, let me ask you another tactical question then, Shawn. How about anything that you would share that you've used policy loans for since you've implemented the concept?
All sorts of stuff. So we've used it for essentially the the main things that I think people tend to use it for. So first, debt. That was the first thing we got the policy for was, hey, we're going to help us. It's going to help us pay off this debt faster, which it did, and played good bankers, set up reoccurring payments back into the policy, made sure that was funding, back into our bucket with a little bit of interest. We've used it for multiple different types of investments, some that have been really good to us, some not so good. And what I like best about your system is it's like going to Vegas. If Jesse, you and me both went to Vegas and we both had $10,000, your $10,000 was in cash that you just pulled out of your savings account. My $10,000 was from a policy loan that I took and was leveraging the insurance company's money, and we both lost our $10,000. I am technically in a better position than you because I still have my $10,000 working for me. Now, I do have a debt to the insurance company, which can be paid off in a couple different ways, but you're going to have to save your $10,000 back up to go back to Vegas. I am going to have to save my $10,000, the insurance company's $10,000 back up to pay them off. But your $10,000 is gone. My $10,000 is continuing to work for me. So it provides you with this level of safety that, hey, even though I might lose money in something, which I hope I don't, my money's never really gone. It's still working for me. So we've been able to use it in investments, whether it be business investments that we've been into, money lending. We've used it for house renovations. Some people will tell you not to use it for things that maybe don't make you money. A lot of people talk about utilization of cars and stuff, which, totally fine. I think you could use it for whatever you want if it's providing value in your life. But we've used it for vacations quite a bit. We always save up every year. We take multiple vacations. We usually go out of the country maybe once a quarter. And so we know, hey, every month we're saving up a certain amount to go on these trips. And one of our policies is the vacation policy. So we stuff the money into that policy. And, excuse me, when the time comes, we go on the trip. We swipe the credit card. We put everything we can on the credit card. We get the points. We come back from the trip. We take the policy loan. We pay it off. We do that same cycle again and start funneling it back in. Now, is that technically making us money? Is there a positive arbitrage there from investment? No, but it is paying memory dividends, and we find a lot of value in that with our family. So is it costing us? Yes, but at the end of the day, we're capturing our dollars and we're in control of the payback schedule. I don't have to worry about how am I going to pay this trip off on my credit card when I get back. So there's no stressing about what we're spending. We already have an allotted budget for it. It just makes that easy. And then let's see, have we used it for savings? Of course, I believe and I try and teach that a certain amount of your policy's cash value should be your emergency fund. So we have a policy where we save a certain amount in there, whatever we feel is necessary, 3, 6, 9 months, again, whatever your scenario is of our emergency fund. And the cash in that policy never drops below that point if we decide to leverage cash above that point. So say we had $30,000 in cash in the policy and our emergency savings is 10 grand, only 20 grand is accessible in that policy. It's how we do it. You keep the rest in there for the emergency fund. We've used it for taxes. I actually just got my taxes back. We owe like $6,500. We have $10,000+ in a policy that we save for taxes. So we will be using that money that's in there for taxes. So you can use it for so many different things. The thought process is, though, you have to finance everything in your life. It's hard to use it on things like groceries and all that stuff. I've heard a lot of people talk about that. That turning cycle is just a little too much, especially before your banking system is the size that it needs to be. But for things that you know are coming up, taxes, uh, you know, kids' schooling stuff, these big time expenses, new refrigerator, renovations to the house, like it is great for those things. And then when we're talking about investments where I'm actually making some arbitrage between what I'm lending at and what I'm making back from the investment, obviously it's incredible for those things. Uh, but at the end of the day, man, it's all just been about the control that we have. It provides us with so much control, which provides you with peace of mind, which provides you with far less stress, which has to be the number one killer in the States. So, yeah, it we've used it for all sorts of things. And so when people ask, and hey, have you used it for this? How do you use it for this? We've basically used it for everything outside of maybe major medical costs, which we haven't had it to deal with. Oh wait, no, no, no. I take that back. My wife is having a baby in July, and it's going to cost us about 6 grand before insurance uh, pays us back a certain portion. And so we took a policy loan out and gave the 6 grand, and got our policy working for that. So medical stuff, emergency fund, vacations. Haven't bought a car with it yet. Won't be buying any cars anytime soon. But yeah, basically almost use it for everything.
Too many airplane tickets and bus tickets, and
Yep.
that's where that fund is going to. Well, let me say on the recording, congratulations on baby number two being on the way. That's very, very exciting. I'm
Thank you.
happy for you in that regard for sure.
We will
And
cap it
thanks
at
for sharing.
we will cap it at 2.
Okay. All right. Capping it too. All right. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, just so you know, my mom always said that when the third baby came along, it really broke up the I'm trying to remember what word she might would have used, but having that third child really broke things up to where the kids are now their own group. And, you can be mad at one sibling and then you still got somebody you can play with kind of thing.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's definitely true.
So there's that. But thanks for sharing about how you guys have used policy loans. I love the wide variety of it. I don't even mind digging in for a minute, Sean, about the virtues that you've described of using your example, let's say, from the Vegas trip or whatever, the person who took savings or income and spent it, that money is gone,
Go on.
gone, 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 right? So when you're talking about the money that came from a policy loan was money from the insurance company because of the relationship that I have there, because of being a contract owner where I have paid real money
Hmm.
as premium to own that contract. It is the insurance company's money now that I've paid as premium, but because of that relationship, because of that private asset, those dollars that I paid back in 2016 are still working for me today in a lot of ways. And that's where I'm saying I don't mind just for a second here. We could go over a few things. That way, people that are hearing that for the first time, they're hearing your story and they can understand, well, whether it's a Vegas trip, whether it's a vacation, whether it's paying the deductibles from my, baby that's going to be born, any of these other examples that you've given us, there's still, if the $10,000, using your number from earlier, is gone that was from a policy loan, there's still this big old honking death benefit that offsets that void of the $10,000. We're not saying that we didn't spend the $10,000. We did spend the $10,000,
Hmm.
but you could run whatever worst case scenario you want to in your mind, and there's this big old death benefit to offset that. Right. And then it still doesn't stop us from earning a dividend this year. Is the insurance company just going to inherently say, oh, no dividend for you this year? Now, there's something to be said about direct and non-direct recognition right now, but we prefer non-direct recognition companies, which means they'll pay you a dividend regardless of your policy loan status, right? So now we stand to earn a dividend, whereas the other guy in Vegas, no dividend for spending his $10,000 on savings. And then who knows, what other value there is from a chronic illness rider, terminal illness rider. If you got child, I mean, we're fathers. If you got a child benefit rider on policy, that gives you peace of mind already for that next generation, both on their protection side and on their bankability in the future when they're adults. And they're just there's layer after layer after layer of advantage because of the virtues of the product, let alone the process that you've described so far of banking. I mean, you're doing it all, man, from paying significant premiums to being an honest banker to growing and scaling a system over time and everything else. So I just wanted to take a minute right there and just talk some about the advantages of financing from a policy. So much better, not a little bit better, so much better than conventional finance.
Yeah, and again, at the end of the day, I think it comes down to the policy does so many things for you. You listed off a bunch of them. It gives you, you know, privacy and security, you know, protection from, if you live in a reasonable state, protection from creditors and liens, like so many things that just holding money in a savings account under your mattress in your qualified plan doesn't give you. Like I tell people all the time, if we did a blind test, like a blind taste test, and I covered up the names of these two things, one was your qualified plan, one was your whole life insurance policy, and we listed all the benefits, and you were coming in for a job, and you got the job, and we said, cool, you get to pick one of these two things that's going to provide you with your, you know, potential fund for us putting money into and you putting money into. This one has all of these benefits. This one has this benefit. The benefit is it has the ability to grow substantially. Which one are you going to choose? Now, every single person would pick the one that has 10 check boxes on all of the things that it does versus the, oh, this one can grow. Let's put some other check boxes. It can also drastically lose everything overnight. It is taxable when I actually want to pull out the funds, minus, you know, Roths. It's not protected from creditors, lawsuits, and liens because it's taxable. And, you know, I'm not only going to get less than what's in it, but there won't be extra money to leave over to my family in form of a death benefit. Like everybody would pick the one thing on the one side, the whole life policy, until you remove the name and they're like, ugh, that thing is stupid. You're just like, let's cover the names again. I'll even switch the sides. Which one do you want? Like it, unfortunately, whole life gets a bad name, but when you dig deeper, when you understand what it is this incredible cash-like asset that has numerous benefits that would check all the boxes that you want it to check outside of market-like growth, which you don't get from anything that's not an investment. So again, neither Jesse nor I am saying this should be the only thing that you do for your retirement. I am strongly against that thought process, but this should be the foundation. I invest, I'm sure Jesse invests in things, whatever they may be, real estate, the market, again, whatever, jobs, other, you know, other businesses. We all invest in things, but the security that you get from having this foundational asset as your building block and all the things that it provides you. We go to Vegas, we lose our money, I'm okay. You're in a tough spot. You might have some sharks coming for you to break your legs. I'm gonna be all right. Like where it's you could go over and over it again, but at the end of the day, do you want safety, security, and control, or do you want, I don't even know what they offer you out there outside of the potential of growth. Again, not comparing it to a market or investments because it's not comparable to an investment. We're talking about a savings account. Do I want on a really good day when the market's doing incredible and every, you know, rates are fantastic, do I want a 4% that's taxable with no other benefits from a high yield savings account? Or do I want this thing that's also going to make me 4 to 5% that has a plethora of other benefits? Like it becomes a no-brainer when you understand what's really going on.
You seriously had me cracking up when you said, all right, let's cover the names again. So you can
Cover them
just see
again.
it for what it is, right?
People will forget to be like, oh, wow, that one looks really good again. And you pull it up, they'll say whole life again, and they're like, ah, no, 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 no. It's wild that that happens, but anybody, literally anybody, go out on the street and do that test. Anybody would be like, yeah, give me that one. That looks amazing.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And for the record, I'm investing in tomahawks. That's what I'm investing
There
in
you
over
go.
here.
Hey,
I'm investing in tomahawks. That's what I'm.
something.
Um, all right. So at some point, though, Sean. Well, no, I mean, so just say it one more time, and then of course I want you to tell people where they can find you. But you decide to personally implement the concept. But because you decide to personally implement the concept, you naturally said, "Well, everybody needs to hear about this," and that means everybody that you know and that you want to reach. So what did that look like for you? You know, timelines or decisions, or for you to say, "Oh, I'm going to do this concept. This is going to be my financial lifestyle now, but also I'm going to do this professionally."
Yeah, so again, luckily for me, I had a unique situation from what I hear from most practitioners is I was in the business. I was already
Mhm.
in insurance. So I just happened to come across something that made more sense than the other things that I was doing. So it was a quick and easy transition for me. I was already making content. I was already doing things. I was already talking to people about life insurance, specifically cash value style life insurance. So although I did have to swallow my pride and eat a little bit of crow going back and talking to the people that I helped with IULs, like it wasn't a hard transition for me to say, I was doing this, now I'm doing this. Here's the reasons why, and laying everything out for them. And then as far as the content goes, creating the podcast, I have a podcast, the Cash Flow Chronicles. I had my YouTube channel, which is now Legacy Life. And it was just same thing that Jesse's doing, just constantly creating good quality educational information that is helping the right info get out there because we don't want to sensationalize this more than some people out there might already be doing. But a lot of people in our areas in our ecosphere say that there's no need to sensationalize it, and I agree 100%. But it is amazing. Like I don't want you to take that as they don't want to sensationalize it, so they don't want to make it sound better than it really is. All of those things that I told you, all the benefits, all of this stuff that it can do for you, the income and retirement tax free, the legacy left behind to your family, all this stuff. That is not sensationalizing. That is just stating the facts of the things that it can do for you. What I don't think it is, again, is one asset that will set you financially free. Like you're going to need other things in your life. This is not the investment. This is the foundation. So, yeah, much like you, I felt the calling for creating content around this and helping people get educated so they can see what's going on. Because much like Nelson says, and if you don't understand the problem, then the solution doesn't matter. So just kind of helping bring clarity to the problem, and that's what a lot of the stuff in my book here is about, is just helping you see the problem. And the problem is a lack of control, liquidity, and cash flow. And so if we can address that problem in very simple ways by better understanding the tools and assets that we have access to in our life, we can drastically change our current situation and our future situation for generations to come. So I wrote this book to, from regular to rich, how one decision can transform your financial life forever for the normal, everyday person. Talks about a few different things, but I feel like I have a process within my system, a four-step process that I've created. I call it the legacy lifestyle process. And step number one is cash flow recovery. Like we have to find where the money is leaking out of your system. This does not work unless you have cash flow. So we need to tighten up and fill all those holes in that bucket. Number two is then family banking. It's time that we educate you and implement a system, big or small, so you can start recapturing some of the interest leaking out in your life and start putting more control back into your own hands. Step three is the income multiplier. So once we build this foundation and we create this security blanket and this emergency fund, and we pay off some of these debts and do these other things, then we now look at, hey, how do we take this money and multiply it in a place that's going to give me more returns than my policy is giving me? Because again, I'm not getting wealthy off of my policy. Policy is the foundation. So we're then looking at your investor DNA and trying to figure out what gets you excited. Excuse me. And then last but not least is step 4 is legacy protection, where then we've already got death benefit and stuff, but we need to talk about other things like guaranteed income for life through annuities or long-term care and the importance and value behind that. So although the book is a lot about infinite banking, it's also a lot about taking you through the first steps that you need to go through from I have debt, I'm kind of broke, how do I fill these holes in my bucket and keep the cash from leaking out, to I have a family trust, I'm in a fantastic situation, my assets are protected, I have cash flow, I have liquidity, and I'm in a strong position to take care of my family for generations to come. So it's called From Regular to Rich because, again, I'm just a regular guy. I don't have all the answers. I've figured some stuff out. And as far as rich goes, I don't mean rich in terms of wealth, which that is a factor of being rich, but rich in relationships, rich in belief, rich in values, rich in all of these things that I think if you check those boxes off, the wealth will naturally come to you.
Very cool. Well, I want to give you a an attaboy for the strength and the humility both to pivot from where you were to say, well, IUL was purported to be this. I found it actually in a whole life, and then doing the deep dive to go pro there. I don't know that I knew though, Shawn, that you're already doing material production, creating content before being a practitioner and everything, which again you are. You're an authorized infinite banking concept practitioner. You got to walk stage at this 2026 think tank. I think I took not because I'm a great photographer or anything. I just happened to be in the right position. You were actually, your face was put up on screen. Your likeness was put up on screen at one point during somebody's keynote presentation, and I got to take a picture of you sitting in front of me, and then your face was up on the screen. I thought that was so cool. I was glad for where I was sitting at the moment. But you're an authorized practitioner and everything. Now you've written your book. So, but again, to eat the crow or whatever, like you said, plenty of people are unwilling to do that. So it's a strong move to do the things that you need to do relationally for you to be able to satisfy yourself that, hey, at any given time, I've been doing the best that I could for anybody that I've been working with. And I appreciate that. And that's what I constantly strive for. Somebody who meets with me today, I'm sorry, but it's going to be the case that they're going to be better off today than they were 2 years ago if they were talking to me, but I would have been doing the best that I could have 2 years ago. So, my thinking is we'll just hang around. It's only going to get better from here. And I think it's pretty doggone good right now.
Exactly. And I can guarantee you that to any of my clients or anything like that I am going to always be continuing to educate myself and looking for the best ways to not only help my family but help your family. Like, I do not claim to know everything, and I do not claim to always be right unless there's guarantees, and I can hashtag put guarantees on things. But I will always be learning. I will never arrive in any situation. And so if you stick around, you are also going to, by default, continue learning as well, because I try and leak as many things into my clients' lives as possible and provide them with the information that I'm learning. And as willing as they are to learn, the more willing that they are, the better relationship that we have, because I'm constantly looking for people who are as passionate about this as I am at implementing it and helping their families and telling others. So yeah, man, I think you've done an incredible job. I love the way that you teach and preach this, and how you've implemented it in your life with your wife and your kids, and the way that you talk to clients and the process that you put them through. And again, the simplicity in which you help people understand this. So just blessed and, honored to have our friendship and be learning from somebody like yourself that's been doing this for, 10 years.
I appreciate that immensely, man. Well, tell me this. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you wish that I had of or that you would particularly like to leave with folks before we can tell them where they can find you? And then I'm going to ask you some fun rapid fire questions.
No, man, I think we chatted about basically everything. Again, find somebody that you really enjoy working with because this is a lifelong relationship. So
Hmm.
Jesse, myself, whatever practitioner it is out there, I say it doesn't have to be a practitioner. There are good people in this space that are not practitioners, but
Hmm.
find yourself somebody that you can build a strong relationship with, that you have similarities with, and you can relate to on different levels, and then plug into them as much as possible. Like I mentioned, I enjoy talking most to my clients who most want to talk to me about infinite banking because that's what excites me and gets me up every morning outside of my family and my other you know husband and fatherly duties. So yeah, just find somebody that you connect with, and I think a lot of things will go well with this. Stay close as you can to the fire. Keep learning, and uh, there's it just keeps getting better and better.
Absolutely. Well, tell folks where they best can find you. And then, of course, I'll put that information in the show notes below.
Yeah, for sure. So again, my website is legacylifeandretirement.com. Um, you can purchase my book on Amazon or on my website, or just go to the landing page from regular to rich.com. And then my YouTube channel is Legacy Life, and the podcast is Cash Flow Chronicles. I know that was a lot, but yeah, Legacy Life, Cash Flow Chronicles podcast, and website legacylifeandretirement.com.
It's a lot because Shawn King is doing all the things. I love it.
Got to
Okay,
find out
let's.
where I can reach the people.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, let's jump into some rapid fire questions, man.
Sounds good, man.
Tell me this. Obviously, other than the book that you just showed everybody that we should all be getting, is there something that you've been reading lately that you really appreciate?
Oh yeah, what we've been reading as a group, um, which is How to Buy Whole Life Insurance by Ryan Griggs. I'm sure you've got yours right there too. Yeah, we've been reading this as a group, coaches, and boy, oh boy, I would say this is not the first thing that you read if you're interested in getting into this. Maybe the second or the third thing after you read a book like Nelson's, but boy, it is in depth, it is detailed, and it is very well written. So if you're interested in all the ins and outs, Ryan does an incredible job breaking it all down in that book. So I've been enjoying that for a second time through.
Absolutely. Can concur. How about outside of travel? Because I got a travel question here in a second. A favorite hobby or a hidden talent that you might have that people might not know that you have? Hobby or talent?
Uh, I think my wife would say that this is a talent. I am a really good cook. I cook dinner for the family every night. So I've found that growing up, if you want to attract women, whether you're good looking or not, being able to cook a good meal usually does the job. Maybe have a little bit of humor to you. So those two things, being funny and cooking, get you really far in life. So I think that's a skill that I dove headfirst into to try and get good at.
That is fantastic. And there are so many things that I could say there. I think I'll just keep going though. I could have fun with that. How about is there a favorite quote that you have or come back to?
Oh gosh, a favorite quote. I would say I put a quote. Well, I try and end every podcast or video I make with the information is free, but the knowledge is priceless. And it's weird.
Mm,
I'm quoting myself, but I think that has so many layers to it where it's like uh, this information, although you can go on again YouTube University and learn absolutely everything about it, and you don't literally have to buy anything. You could figure out a way to get Nelson's book, his seminar, all of that stuff for free essentially. But the knowledge that it's going to provide you with is literally priceless. It is life changing. So I want people to remember, like, the reason I think Nelson was so intelligent and so good at what he did is because he was so well read and so open to continuing to learn throughout his entire life. So knowledge, that that information is oftentimes, for the most part, free that you can obtain, but that knowledge that you get from it is absolutely priceless.
You might be the first person I've interviewed that quoted themselves.
Yeah.
I love it. It's a good quote. I love it. How about, do you have a favorite fictional character? So somebody from a book, somebody from a movie, favorite fictional character.
Ooh. Let's see. Favorite fictional character. I
I want to know which one popped into your mind that made you laugh. That's, don't bypass that one. Tell me what that one was.
so for whatever reason, Lilo and Stitch popped into my head, and I don't know, like one specific character, but I love that movie. Um, and I don't know if it's just like the chill vibes of Hawaii and the family story behind it, but yeah, a little
I need
crazy.
you out of my video.
Just I would say maybe, yeah, maybe Stitch from Lilo and Stitch.
That's fantastic, man. All right, sunrise or sunset?
I see a lot of sunrises because I'm up at 4 every day to go to the gym. So I would say that. And as you get older, sunsets, more I gotta, well, depending on what time of the year it is, it means I gotta be staying up a little later, and your boy goes to sleep at like 8 o'clock. So sunrises.
Beach or mountains? I mean, you're in Florida, so but I still got to ask. Beach or mountains?
Gosh, it depends. It depends. I do love the beach. Spend a lot of time in the mountains though. Love a good hammock between, two strong trees, but I would have to
Hmm.
say probably the beach. Work on my tan a little bit.
Yep, I get it. Fire pit or movie?
Mm, movie. I am a big movie guy. Which is funny because my wife was anytime I'm like, you seen that movie? She's like, no. I'm like, oh my gosh, you have so many other good qualities, but how have you not seen these movies growing up?
It's always good when you can connect with. For me, my siblings, our generation, it's like if you can connect on Disney movie quotes, like you're set. We could just run with that.
Yeah.
How about, I had to ask this one. What's one of the most interesting places you've ever visited?
Most interesting, I would say Iceland. I thought was extremely interesting. My wife and I we rented a camper van and basically drove around out there during the winter time for like a week, drove all over the island, slept in the camper vans, went through massive snowstorms, and they have incredible waterfalls, black sand beaches. So it's incredible because you go on a beach and you see this white snow, and then you see this fine black sand, and great skies and everything, and you're just like, this seems like another planet. There's like no trees there, but it's incredible. So yeah, I think Iceland would definitely feels like maybe, not Mars because Mars is red, but feels like another planet for sure.
Okay, okay. I've been to one or two places where I had that type of a feeling. What characteristic do you value most in someone?
Most, um, someone that is genuine. Uh, yeah, just someone that's trying as hard as they can to be real, be themselves. I think I respect that a lot. Whether that be really good or really bad for them, I like somebody that's is trying to be as true to themselves as possible. So a genuine person, like Nelson, I think that stuff really shines through.
I got you. All right. Last question. This is a fun one I got from my boys at the dinner table one evening. If you had the ability, would you rather be able to breathe underwater or fly?
I would say fly because although I'm a fan of the ocean, far less scary things live in the sky than they do in the water. So, uh, nobody is ever out in the water and not thinking at some point in time something giant could come up and eat me. So you're not going to get that in the sky. I feel like I could take on most birds. Um, but yeah, I think I would rather be able to fly.
I got you. And I appreciate the thinking behind it all. Well, man, this has been an absolute blast. I knew it would be. I appreciate you making this happen. I'm looking forward to getting this out there. So I'll tell everybody that's listening, Shawn's contact information is below in the show notes. Go get his book. Go check out his material online. Reach out to him. Of course, you can find me at durhamtalents.com. My hopes that you live and leave a lasting legacy. Appreciate you, brother. Have a good day.
You too, man. Good chatting with you.
Bye-bye.
Peace. Peace.
If you find these videos helpful along your infinite banking journey, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Live and leave a lasting legacy.